One, connected.
And we're back. Again, this is Alek Dincoff speaking with the founder and owner of opensourcedworkplace.com, Steve Todd.
How you doing, Alek? Good to see you again.
You know, the holidays can be bumpy. This is the nice middle ground between Thanksgiving, my birthday, and Christmas.
So when's your birthday?
The 18th for anyone who,
okay, very good.
But because it's so close to Christmas and Hanukkah and everything else, it just gets swept under the rug. But we're back, and I am so excited to hear your updates, because I know you decided to do something that many people can't do, and you strayed away from social media last week on posting on social media. How has that affected the business? What traffic has happened? Increase, decrease? Where has it come from? Tell us all the good details.
Yeah, no, it's appreciate you touching this, because obviously we at the very end I threw this in as a left hook, so to speak, last week, and you know, I sort of spoke. It was my theory, it was my hypothesis, because I don't think Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. want you to leave their site. So I actually dug in, did some analysis on my last 7-day activity in the site, and who's been coming to the site, where they've been coming from, and also what they've been looking for and what they've been looking at. So this morning I looked at my last 7 days, and I actually have some of the details here. So apologies if I'm not looking directly at you as I read a few things. So 337 page views in the last week. So that correlates with 1,500 page views per month, which is kind of what I would expect it to be, given the sort of the maturity of the site. You know, it's really young still. Now, of those 337 page views, 10 came from social media, 2 from LinkedIn, 8 from Facebook. That's it. So again, it just goes back to show that, you know, I was spending so much time and effort building communities on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, all that time and energy, where actually the people who are coming to my site are not coming from those social media platforms. Google actually give me the most traffic. And well, actually, I should say, people came direct to my site, which is what was a lot more. 2/3 of people who come to this site actually come direct. So obviously they've had experience there before. I suspect some are watching us on Facebook and sort of typed it and went from there a little bit perhaps. But 2/3 are coming direct. The largest section thereafter is Google. And then, you know, the social media is really having zero impact on anything I've been doing. Now, what I've done this morning, so I posted nothing for the last week. This morning on LinkedIn, I have a LinkedIn open sourced page, and I put on 4 or 5 pieces of content that I've had over the last 3-4 weeks, just to see, okay, so let me put this on and let me see what it looks like 7 days from now. So I'll give an update 7 days from now, just to see, actually, does LinkedIn play ball, or actually is this just how it works? So it'll be really interesting to see. Now, I also then looked, okay, so these are the page views. What actually pages are people coming to? And again, it also provided me really interesting insights. So when you go to opensourceworkplace.com, the homepage, that's where a lot of people are actually coming to. The next ranked site, or next ranked page, is the login page. Because obviously certain parts of the site are actually offline. So I suspect people are coming in, clicking through and going to a login thing and trying to get to actually log into the site. So that was interesting. The 2 most viewed pages were topics that our articles had posted quite recently. The highest rank was 100 ways to be productive. I think this will be the top ranked page on the site. I just think it will. It's just such a useful tool. It's just got everything. The next one was actually the future of employee experience. Now, this was something that I posted almost right off the bat. It actually went out, I think it was the end of July, I posted it. So this isn't something, though, that people would naturally find on my site. Yes, it's there as one of the top ranked, but there are other pages or other articles on the site that are actually higher ranked. So I suspect that actually they're coming from searching from Google, is what I think. And two other highly ranked pages or articles this week was one on co-working and one on millennial survey, and they were also posted at the same time as that future of employee experience. So we talked a few weeks ago about, how long does it take something to rank on Google? And all indicators say it's 35 weeks. So now if I look at page views of these articles, we're only talking 44 pages, but it sort of is indicating to me, and we'll keep tracking this, but it's indicating to me that actually Google's probably finding this, throwing people a few bones, so to speak. Do they go? Do they watch? Do they observe? Do they pay attention? How long do they stay on the site? Are you giving them value for what they're actually searching for? And I think it's starting to play through. Now, I do think that these are one or two unique circumstances just because of what they are, because there's a lot more content that was published before. When I say a lot more, it's not a lot more. I actually went through before we got on this call and had a look where how long did it take me to get to 30 articles? Because the 30 articles sort of indicates to Google that you're a site, you've been publishing regularly, and now we can sort of trust that you are going to be somebody who maybe you've got a pattern now, so it's going to continue. I actually didn't get to my 30 articles until October 15th, which surprised me that it took that long. So I went live July 13th, and it took me to October 15th to get to 30 articles. I'm now at 80. So between October 15th and today, we're December 3rd, I've went up that much. So, and it's been conscious effort for me to actually ramp up the amount of content that I'm publishing. So I'm going to be really interested to see how quickly this turns and how quickly the site sort of escalates up to Google, because I think Google is the way to go. Most people, when they're looking for content, actually, there's very few sites we go back to as a trusted source to say, oh, what's updating there today? Some people do it through MSN, through Yahoo, Google News, whatever. Other sports are the real thing. I have my traditions of my routines in the morning, or where I go to find my news. But I think most people are going to come from Google. So the other thing that I've done this last week is I've hired 14 freelancers to write for me. So I've hired 14, and I've put together a list of 80 articles I want those 14 writers to write. My hope and expectation is I can get that done by the end of January. So that will pretty much double the amount of content I'll have on my site in the next 2 months. And I was very unique in how I went about identifying what articles to write. I basically went into Google and I started typing in what people are searching for. What questions are they typing into Google? What are the search parameters they're typing in? Looking to see, is there any good content whenever I click on that search term that I think is really useful and really on point for what people are looking for. And if it was really, really good content, I left it alone. I'm not going to play there. Someone's serving a need there. I don't need to do anything with that. There are other things that I just know are not being, content's not being provided to the level that it potentially could be. So those are the type of articles that I'm going to go after. Now, I only touched the surface of what it is I want to be doing and the amount of sort of content that I want to get to. But it's really simple thing of like, so what is the purpose of an office, right? This is where some real simple things that people would search for, people would look into, but actually the question really isn't out there. It just isn't. So we're going to see how this goes. And again, trying to play for the long game of, so that basically I can provide a service that people are going to be searching for, terms they're going to be searching for. So it's a very long-winded, obviously, answer to your question on where it's sort of going, but I hope that sort of provides sort of insights into my methodology, my strategy, my thinking, you know, going back, having a look at the analytics, look at where people are going, and then really doubling down on where I think the content needs to be and what the site needs to be to really provide the value and service that I really wanted to provide.
All right. Well, all of that was jam-packed, a lot of information. My first question is 14 freelancers to write? That is quite a hefty amount. You're going to have a lot of articles. How do you plan to, I don't want to say manage, do you plan to keep all 14 writers? It'd be great if you could, but do you think, what's the percentage?
So I suspect that if I can keep a third, and a third are giving me good quality, then I'll be happy. And so what I did was I set up a criteria that what I'm prepared to pay, and I sort of pitched that, and I put that in my advertisement that I put on Upwork. So Upwork's where I have all my writers. And I was very specific about what it is I wanted them to do, what I was prepared to pay, and then I give them very, very clear directions on how I want articles to be constructed, how I want them to think about the task, and the format. So the format of my articles is going to change a little bit, but it's going to be, you're going to see a real consistency into how they're being constructed. And again, going back to that subconscious of when someone's typing something into Google, a question or something that they're trying to find the answer to, what other things are they also thinking about when they're doing that? So trying to get into the psychology. So if I can provide them to the answer to the question that they're searching, and then what are the other things that they want when they're actually digging through those searches, right? Because you typically search at the highest level of, you know, to get that sort of broad spectrum, and then you really try and drill in till you get to the answer that you're really searching for. So what I'm trying to do is, okay, how do I catch people at that highest level? But then whenever they come to an article, they actually get to that bottom as well. So it's very, very careful management, but my expectations, if I can get a third, I'll be very happy. I've got 2-3 articles so far. I've had very little to tweak on them, to edit them. There's been a couple where I went back and asked to add a couple of little things, but nothing really that material. So thus far, I've published 2. I have a third that I'm reviewing, but I published 2 already today. So again, these are just people that it's just starting. So my hope and expectations is once this flywheel gets going, it's going to keep going.
That's great. That's great. Just to clarify, you said 14 new writers, roughly 80 articles in the span of what seems like a month. Are you starting out with just one assignment per writer, or have you given them a few different ones to try their hand at? Just curious.
Yeah, so what I did was I structured the titles into 3 groups, and the 3 groups are based on word count. So if I see a topic that actually isn't too well answered or competitive, then that would have a shorter form of content. Or if it's a real specific question that's been asked, shorter form. I then go to the longest section where I'm looking for 4,000 words. 4,000 words is a lot of words, but this is for content that I know is really competitive, and I want to own that search term. So I want to provide the content that actually nails what that person's searching for. We'll see if we do. It's not going to be easy, and we'll see if these writers have the ability to do it. I won't know for another 9 months, but we'll see. It just feels right to me. It just feels it's the right approach. You know, I'm not going to try and do other little tricks and things that people try to do to full SEO and Google. I'm basically just going to try and provide the best type of content that I can. And again, being really deliberate with the instructions I'm providing to my writers. I've given them a little video to watch on how to construct a video, how to construct the content, how to think about the content, how to get in the psychology of the person who's searching for that term, and why we're trying to give them more and go on that journey with them as they drilled into the actual topic itself. So yeah, so we'll see.
It's very exciting. Best of luck. It sounds like you've got an amazing game plan, but like you said, it's a little trial and error. You won't know for 9 months, but it'll come. It will definitely will come with the quality. Now, we've talked about writers, different articles. There was one article that I read recently on Open Source Workplace that stuck out, and I think it's slightly topical because a writer is going to have a different personality than per se me. I'm probably going to have a little bit of a different personality than yourself. I think we get along very well, but that doesn't mean we're the exact same person. It's in the Leesman Index Review. It was called, "Why is it so important to be an effective zookeeper?" And it deals with how each office worker is categorized as a type of animal. For instance, a CEO or a director might be a lion. They're very straightforward and goal-oriented. Salespeople, they were categorized as monkeys because they're fast-paced, friendly-natured, not as much detail-oriented. Dolphins, they were very warm, compassionate, open, slightly unassertive. And those were your more HR types, Lastly, the accountants, perhaps even writers, they're elephants. They're more intellectual. They're guarded. They're task-oriented and detail-oriented. My question to you is, well, first, what animal do you see yourself as? Second, do you agree with the blanket statement that one type of personality fits a certain role, and maybe it fits better than others, but the blanket statement? And last but not least, if you don't agree, do you have any suggestions for the Leesman Index Review?
It's a great question. I love that article. I love the concept. I love the message it's trying to convey, because in essence, the way the article is constructed, you're absolutely right. It goes through all the different animals are there and their different setup. But actually, what it's really trying to highlight is you wouldn't plan a zoo the way most companies plan a workplace. A zoo takes into consideration every animal that's there, their habitat, their feeding patterns, the temperature, the light, their exposure, everything that they need to be able to live as the animal that they are. In the workplace, we typically have a structure and a setup that actually is everyone gets the same. There's no one better, there's no one worse. So no matter what you do, no matter what your function, you get a seat, you get a desk, and you get a computer, you get a phone, and it's very standard. And I think what I love about that article is actually we need to maybe think a little differently. And yes, it makes some fun about the different animals. I don't know what animal I would call myself. I'm sure a few other people would have much more imaginative suggestions that I would ever come up for myself about me. But it's almost the message behind the message, right? That's what's really important about that. And I buy into it 100%. You know, I think as a real estate person, I have to understand the employees, the functions, their tasks, who they interact with, you know, proximity, who do they need to sit beside so that they can be their most productive self. And those are the aspects that we need to really drill into and have to understand as real estate professionals. HR professionals have to do exactly the same thing. Technology professionals have to do the same thing so that they're providing each employee, the functions, the tasks, the right technology that allows them to be successful. Whether you're a person in an office in New York or somewhere in Europe or in Asia, or if you're an employee who works from home, how do you have the right tools to allow you to be successful? So I've kind of answered the question in a roundabout way, but it's more, I love that you brought that up because it's such an important message to convey for all workplaces, for all leaders within our organizations. And we so easily can grasp onto the fact that a zoo, you just wouldn't do, you have to do things a certain way because that makes logical sense. Yet in the workplace, we just try to do the illogical thing. Yeah.
Which brings you back to what you mentioned previously. How do you define the office, the working space, what is the purpose of it, right? You touched on that just briefly when you were explaining things. Perhaps that definition has changed as time has gone on. Perhaps it will continue to change. It'll be what a task it will be to actually define it.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is, like, so, I take that subject, right, and I think about, okay, what could that potentially be and how could you write what that is? And if you just take what we just discussed for the last couple of minutes, you go, what is the purpose of the office? And you just basically compare it to the purpose of, what's the purpose of the zoo, right? And you just took that same thing and you applied it exactly the same way. It would be very interesting how people will interpret it. And, while I select and I define the titles for the articles, I don't make any stipulation or give real guidance unless I'm asked by a writer for an opinion or direction or thought or something like that. I'll leave it completely up to them because, hopefully down the road, there'll be 2 or 3 people who've written the same type of article. And then we put the 3 together, and it's just like, oh, that's an interesting way to look at things. So.
Very good. Well, my question to you is, do you have any, because we've touched on dealing with lots of different things, do you have any tips or tricks that you implement when dealing with either freelancers, when writing yourself, which hopefully, did you mention you're going to continue writing now that you have 14 different writers?
No, I will continue to write. And I did send 3 articles off to an editor after our last week's call. So it was interesting, actually. I sent them off and I got them back, and there weren't dramatic changes, but there were really good changes. Good changes in a sense of just like punctuation, which sort of highlights some of the points that I was making that I didn't convey, and the editing absolutely conveyed that a lot better, more to the point. So, I mean, as you know, I'm very long-winded, so it really helped the fact that somebody was able to get that narrowed down, So no, I did do that. I do still plan to write, but at this moment in time, my focus honestly is when content gets in, just getting it up as quickly as I can. So if I get a window of opportunity to write, I will. I have a list for myself, and as I said, I just go through my normal workday, and whatever comes into my head, or whatever I see the team is not working, but what they're thinking about, what questions are they asking, and then I can sort of take away and go, okay, I can maybe think about that and try and tackle that myself, and put something together.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that you're still going to write, but confirm for me. So will you continue using an editor, or do you think the 3 articles kind of gave you a better basis to write on your own and leave it be for now?
No, I'll use an editor. It just makes so much more sense. Again, all about thinking about the user experience, right? They're going to have a much better experience with a skilled person reviewing something rather than myself. So I think the story and the message is conveyed so much better with some editing. So I will continue to use an editor. Yeah.
That leads me to my last, or at least next question. The same editor edited all 3 articles, correct?
Yes.
Did you give any thought, and if so, why did you decide against using a different editor for each different one, or perhaps using a different editor on the same one, just to see 2 different outcomes, 2 different styles?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Honestly, I just did it for speed. It's just a lot more efficient. It's somebody who I have hired on Upwork. Not one of the 14. This is somebody I've had around for a little while. So yeah, it was just easier just to send send him off and let him do his thing. So.
Well, that's a good data point for anyone thinking of doing the same thing or who is a little shy on their writing, at least knowing that you had success with just one tried, tested, and true editor, not necessarily needing to try 2, 3, etc. editors. So that's good.
Yeah, and to be fair though, right? So to get to this one editor who I use, I have used other editors in the past, and some of the editing just really, I just didn't appreciate it. It sort of lost. Often what I was finding is they were editing out, not the voice, but actually the niche. Sort of, you speak about the topic, they want to take too much of it out. And so I give a pass on some of those editors. So this is an editor who I trust.
Okay. Quality people, quality work. Do you have any other last little points? I know you like to throw things at me as a curveball right before we end for the day.
I actually don't this time. I kind of got everything out. I know I probably disappointed you, but no, I kind of got out because I was more planned and more thoughtful this time about what I wanted to say. I want to be sure that when we do these things, yes, you and I like to have a chat, and I know I go on a bit, but I wanted to be real thoughtful about the message and the sort of the content that we're providing. Because while we're doing this, and yes, we want to make sure that there's a log, there's a history, there's a track to this, but also as well, I want to be sure that we're giving people value and people are learning, so that they do want to come back. And I just encourage everybody to kind of help the story and help you and I sort of promote this and sort of share this video. Also go on Google, do a search in open source workplace, do a search on some of the content and the articles that you hear us talking about, because doing that sends message to Google that people are interested in open source workplace. And also, if other people are listening to this and sort of think that they would like to start writing, I take contributions all the time. Contributions not from a financial perspective. I'll always take that sort of contribution, but this is more from a writing perspective. Think about the spirit of what open source workplace is, and if you're prepared to sort of get into that spirit, and you want to be willing to write, I'm happy to talk and happy to listen to for other people who may be interested.
Well, that's very thoughtful of you. Good to help the community out. That being said, if you like this video, we're here every Monday. Share it with your friends. Share it on social media, even though we've stopped sharing articles on social media. You won't offend us. And other than that, Steve and I will see you next week. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great and safe holiday season.
Correct.